There's a predator that can grow longer than a blue whale, has no bones, teeth, or brain, and can thrive where others die. Forget sharks. Forget snakes. This could well be the deadliest creature on the planet. And the scary thing is, you can't see them coming.
Extreme pain is being shot with a gun, you know, hit with a blowtorch or something.
But the jellies got here first. And they're here to stay. These are the world's deadliest jellyfish. 500 million years ago, the oceans were a harsh place to live. But this is where life began. A primordial stew of simple life forms. Until the jellyfish emerged as the dominant predator. And one of the first carnivores to start thinking about how to hunt, catch, and eat their prey. And while other animals came and went, the jellyfish were always there. Primitive, yet honed by evolution for millions of years. Their simple, basic design comes in many shapes and sizes. And as predators, they don't need claws or teeth. Their power lies in tentacles packed with venom. And out of 2,000 species of jellyfish, around 70 can be dangerous to us, to our machinery and industries, and to our bodies, including the deadliest, the box jellyfish.
10-year-old was tangled in the jellyfish tentacles.
She was stung on her chest, her back.
They were all over the place.
These are the marks the box jellyfish left.
Jellyfish are successful for many reasons, starting with their ability to survive pretty much anywhere in the ocean, under the ice at both poles, around the extreme heat of an ocean vent, and the total darkness of the deep. Environments that would kill most animals. Thousands of feet down. High pressure, extreme cold, and not a lot to eat. Even stranger jelly predators hunt down here. Some just drift, trailing tentacles loaded with lethal stings. And some don't even have tentacles. Found around 3,000 feet down are the comb jellies. That's light refracting off thousands of tiny hairs that propel the jellies through the water. Comb jellies hunt down other deep-sea critters, including each other. But they don't use stingers like regular jellyfish do. They have other, stranger weapons. This burrowee has evolved a simple one. A big mouth. With no brain, all it has is a primitive neural net around the mouth that detects chemical traces in the water. When it bumps into something edible, it simply opens itself wide. Very wide. After the burrowee zips its mouth shut, it holds the prey in place with specialized hooks and digests it. Other comb jellies have a more complicated way of snatching up prey. Coating the tentacles are specialized adhesive cells that act like glue. Once trapped, prey is drawn into the gut and digested. The comb jelly snaps its tentacles at this other green jellyfish. The jellyfish counterattacks with stinging tentacles. Stingers win out. The jellyfish pulls free and escapes with its life. And the comb jelly moves on to its next victim. But these gelatinous hunters go even deeper, and we're only just beginning to get to know them. At over 7,000 feet down lives this gargantuan creature, Stygiomedusa, one of the largest invertebrate predators in the deep sea. The broad 33-foot arms don't have stings. Instead, it's thought that they simply wrap and trap their victims. But the odds of growing this big are slim. Jellies have a tough time growing to maturity. And they do have their own enemies. Just off the coast of San Francisco, an underwater forest makes an ideal jellyfish nursery. Kelp rises from the ocean floor, 150 feet high. At the bottom lie millions of jellyfish polyps, each no larger than a grain of rice. This species is the Pacific sea nettle. Jellies have a strange and complex life cycle. They may wait at this stage for years. But when they're ready, millions of them all change at once. This is how a jellyfish is born. First, segments form. The top one twitches, and a new little ocean predator begins its life. This is the Medusa stage. And in a few months, if it survives, it can grow into this. Several hundred times in size, and trailing 16 feet of stinging tentacles. But there's a tiny predator out there that will eat the sea nettle jellyfish. The amphipod is a shrimp-like carnivore, not much bigger than a flea. An infestation of them will destroy the jelly in days. But there's a species of crab that's got the jellies back. They eat the amphipods. Even if a sea nettle avoids this fate, it won't live much past a year. It's good to have friends in the ocean. Symbiotic relationships can be the key to survival. Half a billion years of evolution has given jellyfish time to figure out some extreme ways of living. Even if it's off the backs of others. They have so many tricks to not only survive, but to dominate wherever they go. 12,000 years ago, melting glaciers created an isolated lake in the Pacific Ocean. Anything that lives here is trapped forever. In Jellyfish Lake, golden jellyfish are the dominant residents. Hundreds of thousands of them. They thrive because of what lives inside their bodies. Tiny algae. They turn sunlight into sugar. The sugar feeds the jellies, and the algae get a mobile home to live on and travel on. They need the sun for food, so they hitch a ride on the pulsating jellies up to the light. So both parties get what they want. But this is still a dangerous place for the jellies to live. At the lake's dark edges, mangroves harbor predators. These jellies are blind, but can still sense the difference between light and dark. If they get trapped here, they risk being eaten alive. This jellyfish species is native to different areas of the southern Pacific Ocean, but it has also found its way to the other side of the world, to a man-made quarry on an island in the Florida Keys. It's infested with tens of thousands of them. Jellyfish have been known to travel around the world in ships' ballasts. But how this species got here remains a mystery. And just like in Jellyfish Lake, all they need to survive is their algae guests and plenty of sunshine. Confined to an isolated place like this, the jellies aren't really hurting us. But there are swarms of certain species that are capable of destroying fisheries, and even the electricity grid for a whole city. Just by their sheer numbers, jellyfish cause mass mayhem in the oceans in different ways. December 10th, 1999, Manila, the Philippines. Approaching the holidays, people are in a festive mood until a population of 40 million is suddenly plunged into total darkness. The 10-hour-long blackout cripples the capital of Manila and sparks rumors of a military coup or terrorist attack. The next day, the real culprit is revealed. A gigantic swarm of jellyfish, enough to fill 50 large dump trucks, sucked into the power plant's cooling pipes. In 2005, an army of these gelatinous invaders suddenly shuts down a nuclear reactor in Sweden. In 2006, a swarm of jellyfish hits one of the largest aircraft carriers in the world, the USS Ronald Reagan, partially disabling it by clogging its condensers. Around the globe, throngs of jellyfish seem to be reclaiming our changing oceans. And once they invade a territory, their impact can be devastating. Jellyfish can make it nearly impossible for other large creatures to survive. Nomura's jellyfish are particularly insidious, and Japanese commercial fishermen know that all too well. It's 4 a.m. in the Tsushima Strait at the southern end of Japan. When a fishing boat hauls in its nightly catch, something is very wrong. Instead of the usual bounty of fish, the nets are coming up with thousands of pounds of Nomura's jellyfish. The fish that remain are so pumped full of jellyfish venom, they're unfit for human consumption. Nomuras used to bloom only once every 40 years. But since 2002, around 20 billion jellies have poured into the Sea of Japan. It's an overwhelming invasion, over 3 times the human population on Earth. And compared to most jellies, Nomuras are colossal. The largest weigh in at around 450 pounds and measure 6 feet across. And no one really knows where they come from. Nomuras also have a voracious appetite. They feed on clouds of tiny microorganisms called zooplankton. Their flowing arms, covered with hundreds of tiny mouths, suck the plankton into a massive stomach. A single jellyfish can clear an Olympic swimming pool full of zooplankton in a single day. They feed on swarms of it hovering near the surface of the ocean. But when night falls, the plankton descends into deeper water. And so do the jellies. Nomuras seem to actively hunt, chasing prey into the depths by night and back to the surface by day. But when they're the main catch on Japanese fishing boats, it's like a battlefield. And the fishermen are becoming masters at the art of killing jellyfish. Dressed to avoid the venomous tentacles, they slaughter the hordes of gargantuan Nomuras. The dismembered remains pour back into the sea. And float down into the depths. This giant jelly invasion has been a disaster for commercial fishing in Japan. But it turns out that killing them only makes it worse. When under attack, Nomura's jellyfish deploy a cunning survival tactic. As they die, they instantly release all their eggs and sperm. So by hacking jellies to bits, the fishermen may only be producing more of them. Every dead jellyfish perhaps gives rise to millions more. Billions of eggs and sperm seed the seas with countless future generations of jellyfish. The fertilized eggs sink into the depths and become polyps, rooting themselves to the ocean floor. Here, they reproduce asexually, essentially cloning themselves. They can survive like this for years, until something triggers the polyps to release a new swarm of tiny, free-swimming jellyfish. But what triggers them is a mystery. Different species follow different patterns. Some of them bloom in phase with the moon. Others can lie dormant for nearly half a century. And as our oceans change, jellyfish are swarming in unexpected places. Polyp blooms can be cued through environmental fluctuations. Polluted waters can also create an ideal environment for these primordial creatures. Sewage, fertilizers, industrial runoff all contain high concentrations of nutrients, providing food for tiny plant life or phytoplankton. This sets off a chain reaction which sucks all the oxygen out of the water, kills nearly everything, and creates a dead zone. Virtually nothing can live in these areas except jellyfish. Unlike other sea creatures, jellyfish can survive for extended periods of time with almost no oxygen. Their cells absorb what little they need directly from the waters around them. So with no one else around, dead zones become the jelly's perfect breeding ground. But the Nomoras have a cousin that's even more massive. And when life is in balance, there's a surprising predator that likes to eat a ton of them. Any animal or plant that can't swim against the current is called plankton. And that includes jellyfish, big and small. Vast blooms of plankton are full of all sorts of different tiny life forms. This is where the great ocean food chain begins. This fertile region of the North Atlantic feeds the colossus of all plankton. The lion's mane is the largest jellyfish in the world. Its body alone can be wider than a man is tall. Its stinging core of tentacles can be longer than a blue whale, catching anything from tiny shrimp to fish to other jellyfish. This is a creature without many predators, except one remarkable animal that swims all the way from the Caribbean to southern Canada to hunt it down. The leatherback turtle. Unusual for reptiles, they can generate body heat, which gives them the freedom to hunt in colder, more bountiful seas. And excellent eyesight cuts through the green plankton soup to spot prey. Jellyfish are mostly water, so a big animal like this needs to eat a lot of them to survive. The big turtles feed from dawn to dusk, eating nearly 3/4 of their own weight in jellyfish every day throughout the summer. But plenty of lion's mane jellyfish escape the hungry turtles and find themselves drifting towards the coast. When they come into contact with humans, one single jelly can cause a lot of pain to a lot of people. With tentacles that can stretch up to 120 feet, the lion's mane jellyfish is the world's longest animal. July 21st, 2010. Wallace Sands State Park, New Hampshire. A 50-pound lion's mane jellyfish turns the shallow waters of Rye Beach into a stinging soup. More than 100 people suffer the jelly's wrath, and many victims are taken to the hospital.
Park staffers will be on the lookout just in case the jelly has any friends, but the beach will be open tomorrow. In Rye, New Hampshire, I'm Mary Saladin, News Center 5.
A lion's mane jellyfish event like this is relatively rare, and there are few, if any, deaths. But there's a family of jellyfish with species that can injure and kill humans in a heartbeat.
These are the marks the box jellyfish left on Rachel Shardlow's leg.
A jellyfish that brought a painful end to one...
Injuries on her arms and legs.
Jellyfish encounters are changing around the world, and often they're turning up in places they're not normally found. U.S. coastal waters have received a visitor from the other side of the world. Also in 2010, dozens of surfers at New Smyrna Beach, Florida, got a painful surprise when they greeted the morning waves.
My whole arm swelled. You can definitely see fluid hanging out of the elbow, you know, and each one of these had blisters on them and raised about that much off the skin.
Extreme pain. It's being shot with a gun, you know, hit with a blowtorch or something.
Their attackers are later identified as box jellyfish. Not normally found in Florida, the family of box jellies are the world's most venomous jellyfish. They're suspected to be the reason for countless drowning deaths around the globe. January 8th, 2006, the northern coastline of Australia. A 7-year-old girl and her family relax on an empty beach. As her parents watch, the girl goes for a swim just a few feet from shore. Suddenly, excruciating pain slashes across her legs and torso. They're the stinging tentacles of a jellyfish. Venom courses through her veins as her parents watch on helpless. Paramedics arrive and do everything they can to save her life. It's a race against time as the girl goes into shock. They inject her with an anti-venom, but it has no effect. She goes into cardiac arrest, and within minutes of the sting, she dies. Another victim of the box jellyfish.
This is widely renowned as the most venomous marine creature in the world and probably the most venomous creature in the world, full stop.
Dr. Jamie Seymour scours the waters of northern Australia for this reclusive creature. Relatively little is known about box jellyfish. Most of their life is shrouded in mystery. And while attacks are rare, this single species is responsible for more deaths in Australian waters than any other. Over 70 people in the past 100 years. But are these mysterious blobs just drifting in the surf? Or are they somehow capable of actively hunting their prey? To track one and find out, Jamie needs to attach a radio transmitter to a jellyfish. Careful not to brush up against its tentacles, he uses a specially designed surgical glue to attach the transmitter to the jelly's underside.
What I'm really interested in is trying to work out where and what they do for a living. So what I'm trying to do is able to predict when they turn up and when they disappear. And if we can do that, that makes the beaches a heck of a lot safer.
The tag reveals that the box jellyfish isn't just drifting aimlessly. It's swimming. And fast. As much as an Olympic swimmer. And it seems to be swimming with intent. The tagged jellyfish heads straight toward shore, past a beach full of people, and makes a beeline to the mangrove trees in the shallows. Not a safe place for a creature dragging 8 feet of tentacles. It could easily get entangled in an underwater forest of roots. But these mangroves are the spawning ground for countless fish, the box jelly's prey. And somehow, these jellies are successfully navigating this labyrinth and hunting. How can an animal with no brain not only negotiate such a perilous habitat, but also actively hunt down prey? In the lab, Jamie has proven that box jellyfish can somehow see by testing them in an obstacle course full of different colored poles.
There is little doubt that these animals can pick up things in the water. I mean, they're seeing the poles and they're actively making decisions as to whether or not they're going to go round it or whether they're going to avoid it. They seem to be able to pick out the differences between certain sorts of colours.
Jellies are not generally thought to have eyes, but it turns out that box jellies, unlike any other we know about, actually do.
Box jellyfish are active predators. These guys are actively chasing fish. To catch fish, you've got to be able to see them. To do that, you've got to have a set of eyes.
They can see their prey, chase it down, and kill it.
They've got quite sophisticated eyes. They've actually got 24 of them. And they're not just simple eyes. These guys have got 2 eyes in the middle. They have pupils, lenses, and retinas.
Jellyfish eyes are remarkably advanced for such a primitive creature. All 24 of them are clustered at the 4 corners of their bell, giving them 360-degree vision facing inwards through their own stomach. Box jellies don't have a brain as we know it, but their primitive nervous system may be interpreting the information from their senses. This sensory ability is a formidable weapon. But it's not their deadliest. A box jellyfish's sting is the kiss of death. Their prey doesn't stand a chance. Once trapped, digestion begins while the victim is paralyzed, but still alive. Within just a few hours, the jelly's enzymes will have completely digested the fish. Bones, scales, everything. The secret to this impressive hunting ability lies in its long, flowing tentacles. Each one is lined with millions of microscopic spring-loaded harpoons called nematocysts. These tiny structures are unrivaled by almost anything else on the planet. When a creature brushes up against the tentacles, the nematocysts fire. Like mini hypodermic needles, each one injects a micro-drop of venom directly into the victim. Every inch of every tentacle contains millions of these stingers, each one bursting with death. Rarely seen, these images were captured with an ultra-high-speed camera under a microscope. Exploding with a force of 1 million Gs, they accelerate as fast as a bullet. One of the fastest biological processes in nature. The barbed harpoon lodges under the skin and pumps venom into the prey.
They've never seen a box jellyfish in this area before.
What it can do to our blood can be seen under the microscope too. As soon as the jelly's poison is released, it's a scene of epic carnage. The venom is hemotoxic. It destroys red blood cells. But that's not all it does. Most poisonous predators have a single specialized toxin. Scorpion venom is a neurotoxin, attacking the nervous system. Brown recluse spider poison dissolves skin. Pit viper venom destroys blood vessels. But box jelly venom does it all. A cocktail of destruction that can blister the skin, shut down the nervous system, and induce cardiac arrest. Not only that, box jelly venom also targets nerve receptors, causing immediate, intense, and long-lasting pain. It's a venom that seems to attack a human's nervous and cardiac systems like no other creature on the planet. And because it lives where we swim, it's claimed more than 80 lives in the last century. Some in just minutes. Box jellies are found throughout the north of Australia, from Brisbane to Darwin, and then to Exmouth in the west. Their natural habitat also includes parts of Southeast Asia. There are different species, but they all have the transparent box-shaped body in common. In some, these boxes, or bells, can grow to the size of a bucket and trail as many as 60 tentacles. Fully grown, some can reach lengths of 10 feet. Food brings the box jellyfish close to shore, and so close to us. Because their long tentacles contain so many stingers, we don't need to see the creature to be stung by it. One encounter can be a deadly toxic punch to the entire body. Skin around the bite area dies within hours, leaving long purple whip marks. As the venom's absorbed, breathing quickly becomes distressed. Heart and respiratory failure soon follow. Even our brain is affected. Anti-venom is available, and of the hundreds of jellyfish stings that occur every year in Australia, few are fatal. The jellyfish reserves its power for small fish and shrimp, things it can actually eat. A slow death that can literally be watched by all. But in the same family as the box jellyfish, there's an even more insidious creature. Because this one is so tiny, it's barely visible to the naked eye. March 2002. Robert King, an American tourist, is snorkeling through the pristine clear waters of the Great Barrier Reef off northern Australia. He feels a tiny sting, but sees nothing in the water. In 20 minutes, a headache sets in, driving him back to the boat. 10 minutes later, the pain spreads. He gets severe muscle cramps and feels nauseous. Excruciating pain builds. He can no longer control his movements. This is the torture of Irukandji syndrome. They can only treat symptoms as they appear, injecting morphine to ease the pain. 2 weeks later, King dies. His killer? A tiny, nearly invisible jellyfish weighing less than an ounce. Dr. Jamie Seymour searches for Irukandji off the coast of northeastern Australia. Underwater lights draw them in like moths to a flame. he's careful to cover every inch of his skin, because he knows too well what happens if he doesn't.
A scale of 1 to 10, 0 being no pain, 10 the worst you can imagine, I've certainly been there at 14s and 15s.
In Australia alone, there are over 50 incidents every year. As research into these venomous creatures advances, more and more jellyfish attacks are being linked to Irukandji. Jamie is working to build a catalog of the perpetrators. By comparing stingers from skin samples scraped off victims with stingers from jellyfish collected in the field, he can ID the culprit. It turns out that Irukandji syndrome is not caused by a single species. There could be as many as 20 different jellyfish that cause this illness.
Which probably means it's a new species, and it's capable of killing people. I mean, that's pretty frightening.
The deeper he digs, the more suspects he finds. And they're turning up everywhere.
It's cropping up in more and more places throughout the world. You see it right throughout Australia. It's in Timor, Indonesia, Bali, and Madagascar. You see it in Waikiki Beach.
But like other jellyfish that have crossed the planet, the species that cause Irukandji syndrome are showing up far beyond the warm tropical waters of the South Pacific. 2 a.m., the Florida Keys.
Prepare to enter the water.
Combat divers with U.S. Special Forces are on a routine training mission.
4 more seconds.
Something they've completed many times before.
Get hooked up with your body.
Ready, set, go.
But this time, there's something deadly lurking in the deep.
We surfaced. Once we got to shore, I started losing control of my own body.
What's going on? Talk to me, talk to me. Hey, talk to me. What
Medics have seen this dangerous cluster of symptoms before. Normally associated with jellyfish encounters thousands of miles away in Australian waters. It's Irukandji syndrome.
Let's get an IV on. And let's go ahead and do Valium and fentanyl. Let's go ahead and control the symptoms.
Survivors say it's one of the most excruciating experiences a human can endure.
The full leader wide open. Is it any better after the fentanyl and the Valium?
The debilitating symptoms can linger for months. For this unit, it's the worst case they've ever seen. While deadly attacks are rare, new reports are pouring in from around the globe. Irukandji-like symptoms in Japan, and even as far north as the icy waters of Great Britain. Once they become established, jellyfish can make it nearly impossible for other large creatures to survive. Are they destined to reclaim the planet's oceans? They were one of the first life forms on Earth, and they may well be one of the last.